I have a friend who is very interested in retiring early. He's worked really hard for a very long time and is wondering how much money he needs to just be done with work. So I ask him, have you thought about how you're going to deal with the
early retirement gap?
When you retire early, and we're talking somewhere between ages 55 and 60, you create a financial gap between then and when you're eligible for all those government programs that everyone loves. And there are a few things that early retirees need to carefully navigate. Number one, you're no longer building wealth. You flip the switch and now you need to turn your savings into a monthly paycheck. Number two, you're no longer adding to your Social Security earnings history because you aren't earning anymore. You could start drawing it when you turn 62, but you may want to wait a little longer to get more lifetime benefits. And finally, number three, and this is a big one, you're on your own for health insurance because Medicare doesn't kick in until age 65. So I tell my friend that it's not impossible to overcome the
early retirement gap.
But before I tell him how much he needs to retire, he also needs to make some plans for how to bridge that gap. There are two answers to the problem of living off of your savings, an easy one and a better one. The easy answer is to use the good old 4% rule. For example, if my buddy needed 60 grand a year to live the life that he wanted, we simply divide that number by 4% to arrive at a portfolio of $1.5 million to make that income happen. That's a portfolio that's 25x the amount that he needs each year. So my friend's eyes went really wide when I told him this. When you do the 4% calculation for yourself, you may get a little scared that you're way behind. And that's why it's the easy answer. The 4% rule is more of a back-of-the-napkin calculation. By the end of this video, you'll see that the 4% rule is probably overkill. You may need much less than it tells you because the 4% rule isn't based on how people actually spend money in retirement. So the better answer is to sit down with an experienced fee-only financial planner that can strategize with you. They can dig into your expenses, your goals, look at what types of retirement accounts that you already have, what accounts that you could start, how much Social Security you're going to get, and when to take it, and of course, the list goes on and on. And speaking of Social Security, if you do retire early, your options are somewhat limited. If you're no longer earning income and adding to your earnings history, your Social Security retirement benefits will pretty much be what they'll be. Your monthly retirement check can get bigger, but only if you apply for benefits later. But then, of course, you're widening the
early retirement gap.
If you don't know what your Social Security benefits will be, visit ssa.gov to find out. At the end of this video, I'll have a link to a playlist of my Social Security videos so you can dive deeper into what's best for you. And the final puzzle piece for early retirement is what to do about health insurance before you're eligible for Medicare. The first and simplest option is to sign up for a plan through healthcare.gov, but unfortunately, it's not cheap. Another option to consider is to use COBRA to keep your current health insurance. COBRA will allow you to continue on your current plan for up to 18 months after you stop working. Unfortunately, you'll need to pay the entire premium yourself, plus an extra 2%. Still, this may be cheaper and better coverage than what is available through healthcare.gov. If your spouse is still working, you may be able to get coverage through their employer group plan. Now, this would be an ideal scenario. Unfortunately, my buddy who wants to retire early is single, so that's off the table for him. And of course, you could always consider a part-time job or a side hustle that could cover your health insurance premiums, as long as it's not as stressful as the job that you're walking away from. Now that we're clear on what I mean by the
early retirement gap
and everything that you can do to survive it, let's look at how much my friend will need to retire at age 60 and still have an 80% Monte Carlo probability of not running out of money in retirement. Okay, since there are many variables in this case, there are a bunch of assumptions that we'll need to make. Your situation is probably different. Maybe your investments do better than 7.2%, or inflation is higher than 2.6%, or you're married with kids, or have some pension income. These numbers are more of a guide than an exact calculation for your particular situation. So if my buddy wants to retire at age 60 and spend $60,000 a year, he'll probably need to have around $815,000 saved, around 13.5 times his annual spend. This is a much lower number than the 25x he needed according to the 4% rule. This is because we're modeling my buddy's spending based on the research of how retirees actually spend money during retirement. This pattern of spending is known as the retirement spending smile. Many retirees end up spending more in the beginning, slow down as they age, and spend a little more for healthcare later in life. Okay, so what if my buddy wanted to spend $100,000 a year and still retire at 60? If so, he'd need to save 18 and a half times that, or $1.875 million. Okay, time out. Why did the multiple just go up? Why isn't it just 13x for everybody? In his case, it's taxes. Most of us have the majority of our retirement savings in tax-deferred accounts. The more you have to take out of these accounts, the higher your tax bracket, and the more you pay in taxes. So here's how much my buddy would need to retire at age 60 with different spending levels. Remember, this is just an example. Your numbers are likely to be very different. Now, if you want to know your exact number, it's best to talk with a financial professional that can walk you through the details and to help you with Social Security questions, because Social Security plays a huge role in this. So check out this playlist of videos that will dive deeper and help you decide when you should apply for benefits. I'll see you there.